Hey everybody, it's Stove Talk with Matt. I made this in my driveway, I guess a little over a year ago. The family, quote, backyard fire pit drives me crazy. How everybody just throws logs on the ground and puts stones around the fire, and all the smoke goes in everybody's face. And it does drive me crazy. So most of the people that come to this channel are pretty much stove experts. I'm not attracting too many regular people, but I still want to put this out. I'll go over materials at the end, guys. It's probably 80 to 90 bricks. These are fire bricks, but you could do it with red 4x8 pavers. And it's only two bricks across. Now, if you've got 16 people sitting around the fire, most people can't see the fire, but you could have 4 to 5 people sitting around this, and with a flat back, the flame wants to go up the flat back. There's very little smoke, and if you put any sort of a pipe on top, I have an insulated stovepipe here, but anything, even dryer vent, once you burn off the galvanization, once you burn off the zinc, which can be very dangerous the first time it heats up, you have to burn it off and be safe. Don't inhale it or breathe it. Here's the mini stove. I mean, this is probably only 50 to 60 bricks. These are fire bricks, which are 9 inches. You could do it with 4x8 pavers. You make a little flat back, you get very little smoke. The smoke doesn't go in everybody's face, and it does heat up nicely. Even at 15 degrees, you could have 4 people sitting around this. If you've been burning it for 3 hours, you'd have a gigantic bed of coals, and it would be hot. It would radiate out. 4 buddies sitting around drinking beer. Once the fire even goes out, if you have a giant bed of coals, if you've thrown enough wood in, it would radiate out nicely. You'd have no problem 20 degrees if there wasn't any wind. So I don't know why everybody does the family fire pit in the back. It's just a disaster. Make something like this, do a flat back. Once the fire bricks or the red bricks heat up, the flame wants to rise up along the flat back. The heat of it being so narrow does, as it gets hotter and hotter, burns up more and more smoke. Here I have the wind is coming directly into, I have a good wind direction. So if you have a good wind direction and you build this so the wind comes in, it's going to help, of course, and the flames will lap up 8 to 15 inches higher. But if you build it, if the wind was coming from the other direction, it wouldn't lap up as high, but it would still act somewhat the same, and you'd have to make it a little bit higher, or put a dryer vent pipe on top, 6 inches by 5 feet, so you get the smoke above the people eating and drinking sitting around it. That's what drives me nuts. The wind shifts and people get smoke in the face. All they have to do is something like this. And again, you can't around a backyard fireplace, you can't get warm. It shifts, the wind shifts. Again, this is only good for 4 people because, the fifth person's not going to be able to see the fire. It's only, the back is 2 bricks across and then 1 brick out. So if you build it out further, it's going to get hotter, but then you're only going to be able to have 3 people around it to see the fire. But you will heat up, and eventually, once you put enough, hardwood in, and you have a huge bed of coals, it'll radiate out a good amount of heat. So it doesn't matter how cold. This is a double. I made my own double insulated stovepipe, a pipe inside a pipe with the inch difference stuffed with mineral wool, and an insulated stovepipe. There's no smoke. Will pull a little bit more aggressive. We'll pull everything up. There's very little smoke here. If what do you on the ground? You're not going to pour a slab in the backyard probably, but you just tamp some mini stones, tamp some sand, get it very flat, and as flat as you can, or put a piece of hardy backer board down. That's on the ground. Hardy backer board or cement board doesn't burn. I'm not going to tell you to use plywood. I have to tell you not to use plywood, but whatever. I have to tell you not to use that, but get it as flat as you can. And if it's totally not a flat surface, you'd probably have to make this with. If you're going to make it to last for 2 years or something, you could use a cheap mortar, like 4 parts dirt, really really fine sifted dirt, or you could buy that $3 bag at Home Depot of topsoil. 5 parts dirt to 1 part cement, and it'll hold together for a few years. And when you go to break it down, it'll come apart pretty easily, and you can scrape. If you don't use too much cement, you can scrape it off and reuse the bricks. So if I didn't have a really level surface, I would use 5 parts dirt, 5 Folgers coffee cans of dirt to 1 part type S cement. It would hold just enough to, on a piece of cement board to hold together for a few years. And if it falls over in a few years, you put it back together, even if you mortared everything in a few hours. So something like this is, you get the heat, the smoke gets out of everybody's face, the heat radiates out, the fire is much more fun to look at because it will go up the hot back of it will be kind of pulled like a magnet to a degree up the hot back, the flat back. Rumford fireplace in the 1700s had a flat back. I don't know where the idea, I have a video a few months back called Fireplaces Suck, where it has that angled back that comes out towards everybody. The Russians call it a tooth. It is the worst, most horrible design. You want something to rage up with great draft, you just do a flat back. And as the flat back of the fireplace or outdoor fire pit gets hotter and hotter, it'll draw more and more aggressively up the flat back. It's like heat's like attracted to heat to a degree, like a magnet. And again, if you're sitting, 4 chairs are sitting around this and you get a nice wind behind you, a wind going in the stove, as it gets hot, and those flames will shoot up 4 feet. In terms of materials, you saw the mini version before I stacked it up higher. It's probably about, with the base, probably maybe 55 or so bricks. These are fire bricks. To go up as high, if I was making something more permanent on a piece of a hardy backer board in my backyard, I want to last 3 years, I probably would need about 85 to 90 bricks. I would mortar it up with some, 5 parts dirt, 1 part cement. You don't need fire clay, small, tiny little joints. Just hammer it down with a mallet or a rubber hammer. Tiny little 1/16 inch joints, whether you use the fire brick or red brick, just to hold it together. Don't need like a brick wall. Don't need those thick joints or anything like that. You can't even do that with 5 parts dirt, 1 part. Has to be very sifted. You can't have rocks in the dirt. You can't use cement with rocks or aggregate. 5 parts sifted dirt. Fire clay is what you want, but now that used to be $7 a bag 20 years ago. Now that everything's expensive. Now that's close to $40 a bag, fire clay, because every idiot in their brand new home wants fire clay sinks. So that's not the only reason it's expensive. That's one of the reasons. So just the Home Depot, $3.20, the big 30, the 30-pound bag of topsoil dirt usually has very, very few stones, to 1 part type S cement, which has no aggregate or concrete, and hammer it down, slap it on, wet. Hammer it down with a rubber mallet. Even if you've never laid a brick, you could do something like this and have the whole thing done in, about an hour and a half. So this is what I recommend for the outdoor fire. It's also, so I'd even mention this, it's much safer. Your embers come out very high. By the time the embers fall, they've lost their energy. They've lost their heat. You shouldn't ever do an outdoor fire pit if it's been dry for 3 or 4 weeks or no rain. But these idiots do these fire pits on the ground with the rocks around. Everybody's getting smoked out, and the embers just fly everywhere close to the ground. And, they'll still burn them when it's dry like idiots. So this is much, much safer as well. And the more, if you come out, there's only one, the walls on each side, you can see from the beginning, is only 1 brick coming out. If you come out 2 bricks, the heat will be more contained. You'll get less smoke, but it'll get much hotter. But only 2 or 3 people then will be able to see the fire. You won't be able to see it from the sides. But if it's only for 2 or 3 people, if you come out with 2 bricks and make it more like the walls on each side bigger, it's going to get much hotter and much safer, less smoke, and radiate out more. But again, I like the small size of this. It's a nice compromise if you have people sitting around a fire out back. It's just hey, the people sitting on the other side can't see the fire. Oh well. Thanks for being here.